Hello, sunshine. Welcome to Be Visible with Veronica, the podcast where bold conversations and soul-aligned strategy help you awaken your most powerful self. I'm your host, Veronica Bahn. Get ready to stop dimming your light, own your magic, and finally be so visible you can't be ignored. Let's get visible. Welcome back to Be Visible with Veronica. I'm thrilled to have an incredible conversation today that going into mid-year, I think every family needs to be talking about. Not only is this wonderful guest the founder of this company, Your Parent Porter, she actually has personal experiences that helped her create this company, become the president of it, and launch it in a way that I think will be the next way parents and children and families actually work together to come up with an assurance plan for their life as they're aging, because we do. It's inevitable. And if you want more information and you want to understand why this is important to you, not only as an entrepreneur and stepping into that space of faith, Nicole has created an incredible company, and I'm thrilled to have her here. Nicole Porter with Your Parent Porter. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh my gosh. So I've heard many episodes that you've been a guest on, and I also love your own podcast where you've shared these stories. And I've had the privilege of kind of sitting in let's call it the theater of life, watching you evolve through these different stages and what you're talking about. And we always start at the very beginning of this is such an incredible idea. And there's some not just foundational pieces, but it has legs, it has a future, and the conversation is so important. And we're going to talk about all of those things today, and then we're going to guide people on how they can reach out to you.
Perfect.
But more importantly, you've gone through lots of iterations of who Nicole is.
Ah, yes. Which story to start with? No.
True, though.
No. What's funny is I started my podcast a year ago, and I'm in the studio too. So it's like kind of like coming full circle being back in here today.
Oh,
and
wow.
My business has totally evolved since I started my podcast called Your Parents Lied to Me. Just because
What do you mean our parents lied to us? Not just about Santa Claus or whatever.
I got the phone call from my family, and they're like, your parents didn't lie to you. And I was like, well, they didn't tell us some of the things that were going to happen as we got older and things about the future. And, I wouldn't call it lying per se, but they definitely left a lot of information out.
Well, come on, a good hook. We all need a good hook.
We all need a good hook.
People are going to pay attention when your podcast is called They Lied to Me.
I definitely had the children go, my parents lied to me too.
See?
What's it about?
Right. So there was however you were inspired to come up with that name, I think it's brilliant. So let's talk a little bit, Nicole, about your journey that got you here, because many women entrepreneurs, this will be a familiar conversation, especially many women in the home, not just happening to their own families, but as the in-law who's married into a family where these conversations have occurred, and kids thinking they've lied to adult children, saying, my parents lied to me, or just didn't give me the whole truth, in how to prepare for life. And it is a little bit, and I'm going to say this because it's true, every time we go through a phase of life, there's people we know who've gone through it as well, but we think, how come nobody told me this, right? How come nobody told me this? And sometimes you can't know it until you know it.
Right. And most people learn the hard way, like I did. So I moved to Arizona. I've been here since 2007. And so I always had that daughter guilt of living far from home. I'm from Michigan originally, but I couldn't do the gray skies in the winter and all the things. So I came here for sunshine. And, my mom gave me you're missing out, you're so far. And so I had to work through a lot of that over the years. She talked me one time into coming back closer to home. I went to Chicago in 2015, and I lasted all of 9 months and moved back to Arizona. That's a whole nother story. But I think at that point, my parents were like, you're right. I think you do belong in Arizona. But I did see them getting a little bit older every time I go home. I'm like, oh man, we should probably have some conversations. Like, when did they get so gray? When did they start moving a little slower? There was the time I'm just sitting with them and I'm like, this isn't I'm not a kid anymore. And I'm in my childhood home talking to my parents like I always have, but things are different. And so, I always kind of did the things they told me to do. They're like, oh, you need to get the job. Well, I've tried many jobs and I didn't like them. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was like, I see the possibilities in being an entrepreneur. And I was in real estate and in the hospitality business. So I was like, I will start the Airbnb concierge business and be in real estate and make people fall in love with Arizona. And then they'll want to move here. And then, 2020 happened. And I actually had to go to work on my real estate license in 2020 because everything else kind of shut down, especially hospitality, Airbnb, things like that. So doing awesome in real estate, 2022, the market takes a shift and, the rates went up and people just quit buying. Wow. And my family was like, well, can you come home, to visit us? And I was like, I've been super busy with the real estate market. Like I can come home. Nobody's doing anything. I'll come home for a few weeks. I'll spend 4th of July with you and my birthday. And they're like, okay, well, Dad needs to have this procedure. Do you want to be home for, Dad's surgery? I was like, well, I can if you need me to be. And they were like, nah, Dad wants to spend time with you. We'll do it after you leave. So my brother had just had a baby. The family's changed. My mom had been, I'd been working with her to get her healthy. She came to Arizona in 21 for her daughter boot camp. And that's another story.
I remember when you did that and I got to meet her.
Yeah.
She was so proud of you.
Yeah. And it was very healing for both of us, because parents think that you're affected, certain things have affected you, traumatic. And I was like, Mom, I don't even remember that thing, So her and I had a lot of healing and we did a lot of work together and that was really great. So when I went home this time, it's like my mom and I's relationship was healed. I'm like, I'm not going to fight with my mother about her collecting of things in the house. And I'm just going to let them live their lives how they're going to live because I can't change them. And I just want to enjoy my time with them. So that's what I did. And I was like, Dad, we just had an estate planning attorney in our real estate office. Like, do we know what to do if something happens to, you and Mom? And he was like, we just finished our will. It's in there on the table. You want to read it? And like any child, la, la, la. No, right. Just asking. I just want to know. I don't need to read it. I'm good. And my brother's like, Dad wants to be cremated. Mom wants a service. I'm like, okay, as long as people have had conversations, I don't want to talk about it. And I spent my last few days there with them. I drove back to Arizona. I got back on Tuesday. My dad had his procedure on Friday. He made it through surgery. And then that night he had a blood clot, which caused a heart attack, and he passed. And that was the wake-up call. So it's hard.
I just want to be there with you for a minute, though, because you listened to that also inner voice that said, go home. Mm-hmm.
And I like to go home in the summer. I mean, who wants to be in Arizona all summer?
Not many. But you had that time, and your mom had the wisdom to say, we're going to postpone the surgery so you can spend time with your dad. Mm-hmm. What was that moment for you, just being before he passed, just knowing you were having these conversations, but you're, I know, because it's hard. It's so important to talk about things that are hard and be a mirror. Right now, somebody's listening or watching this, Nicole, and you're reflecting something to them.
Right.
And that's why I want to pause for a second, because that's important to feel it.
Right.
There's others who've been there and maybe didn't listen to that nudge that said, go home.
Right. Yeah.
And then 3 days later, maybe, they're hearing their parents invite them to come home. And I'm telling you all right now, go home.
Right.
Go be in that space. If there's forgiveness that needs to happen, be the one who forgives. If there's a moment where you need to have a conversation, bring up the hard thing. Have that conversation. Go be in their presence. But also they need to be with you because we're not gifted another day.
Right.
You could have
something.
It could have been opposite of the tragedy that
Parents
happened with you.
Lose children all the time.
Yeah, I know. So you had to go through that. Mm-hmm. So did you turn around and go right back home then?
Yeah, I was on a plane the next morning. Thankfully, we're 3-hour time difference. So when it happened there, I was still able to, it was probably 8 p.m. here. It was late there. So I was able to get on a plane the next morning and we went back and dealt with things. And that was kind of where, the will wasn't important at that point. My mom was still around. My brother was there. What would dad have wanted? Like, yeah, he's cremated and now we have his ashes at the funeral home and we're trying to figure out what kind of service would dad want? And, you see the prices on the urns and we're like, dad would have had a heart attack if we bought one of these urns, like we're not getting one of these urns for dad. And my dad had worked at this beautiful, venue in town and family friends, super small town. So, we ended up having a party for dad and we had,
celebrated
his life and it was in the spot that he loved to work and with his people. And there were probably 300 people there.
Wow.
So we did the best we thought dad would have wanted. And we felt really good about that. The one thing that really shocked me, though, in this whole situation was I found out my parents were not getting buried next to each other. I was like, you guys have been married for 40 some years, what do you mean you're not getting buried together? And my mom said, oh no, dad wants to be by his mom and I want to be by my mom. And so we picked different plots in the cemetery.
What?
I know. And I was like, what? And my mom and my dad's sister never got along. So my mom's like, I don't want to be by her either. So I want to be by my sisters. And, that was kind of a wake up call where I was like, why didn't we have these conversations? Like, why did I not know any of this?
Wow.
And so that was super hard to, your married parents didn't get buried together. So, okay. I had to put life back together and come back to Arizona. I stayed there for a little bit for my mom and, until everybody felt good, it was a few weeks. And then I came back to Arizona and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to put my life back together. And I've been in real estate and the market's hard and people are, having challenges. And so I had to try to start rebuilding my real estate career and get some momentum and do it different because it was not the 2020, 2022 market. So that was very awakening. And then my mom just was not doing well after my dad. She had been diagnosed years prior with non-alcoholic fatty liver. She just had never been healthy. She'd always been overweight and never taken care of herself the way she should have.
Probably always taking care of everybody else.
She's a caretaker. That's all she wanted to be in life was a caretaker. She wanted to be a grandmother and a caretaker and I didn't give her grandkids. So, I wanted her just to take care of herself and she just never did. And she was in and out of the hospital. And my brother had a new wife and a new baby. And so, I told my brother, I'm like, if you need help, you need to tell me. And my mom had 3 sisters, so they were still helping her out. My mom ended up in the hospital around my birthday on the 4th, which is
almost a year later then.
So exactly a year later, she ended up in the hospital. And I was like, brother, mom said, don't come home. Don't waste your money. She is fine. And she was in sepsis. And a few days went by, it's 4th of July, and I was like, how's she doing? Well, they're trying to get her transferred to her liver specialist, all of the things. And I was like, you need to tell me because I need to drive home, bring my dog, pack up, and hit the road. So it's going to take me, 2-3 days to get there. And I'll stay as long as I need to stay, but you have to tell me. And he's like, yeah, you might want to come. And so I hit the road and went back and I went immediately to the hospital with her and she was in a hospital on the other side of the state. So I had, thank goodness I had college friends that lived, closer to the University of Michigan campus, which that was hard. I'm a Michigan State Spartan and my mother was in the University of Michigan hospital, which I know it's the best place that she could have been, but it was still very hard. But she just wasn't getting better. She started to, and then she started to decline. And I told my brother, I'm like, I don't want to watch her keep doing this. And we made the decision to let her pass.
Let her go.
And so she passed almost exactly a year after my dad.
Wow, Nicole.
So that was a tough one because dad went quickly and I didn't have to be there. And then mom went slowly-ish. And
you were there the whole time.
I was there the whole time and watched her take her last breath. And so that was really, really difficult. Because then my brother and I had to really deal with the loss of both parents.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sorry.
I'll pause.
So this story, I mean, everyone on the planet has a mom and a dad. Biological parents, even if they're living with non-biological parents, they were adopted. You still have these mentors, people in your life, but the parents who raised you,
Mhm.
and now they're gone.
Well, and they were still young.
And they were young.
My dad was 69. My mom was 67.
So young.
The reason I didn't have those conversations because I didn't think my parents were old yet. I didn't think we needed to have those conversations. And so when they're gone in their 60s, it's just a shock to the system.
Sure.
You know, I didn't expect to end up with my childhood home and having to clean out all my mother and father's belongings and figuring out what to do with the house. You know, even with a real estate background, I was like, oh my gosh, when did dad add the AC? When was the roof done last? When was all the, from the real estate perspective, because we wanted to sell the house.
Right.
And I'm not licensed in Michigan and I haven't lived in Michigan in over a decade, so I don't even remember all the things that go wrong with Michigan houses. And so my brother, and thankfully my brother was close and he knew a lot of the answers or he knew who to call to find them. But
and being in a small town, that was a little easier.
The small town definitely helped because there's only a couple electricians and there's only a couple plumbing companies.
And roofers and things.
Process of elimination. Okay. We figured all of that stuff out.
So you go through this traumatic time for a year. And I know you're still healing from it. Who isn't? I mean, you loved your parents. You were close to them. You had a beautiful relationship with your family. They supported you being out here in Arizona, watching you living your dreams. And still trying to figure out what that dream also looks like for you.
Right.
Because you were still in the development of it all and trying to figure it out.
Right.
So you go through the selling of the house. I remember when you were there going through all the stuff.
Yeah, I didn't sell it immediately. We were going through all the stuff. And we had told Mom for many years, Mom, throw this away. We don't want it. When you die, we're pulling up a dumpster. And you guys, nothing means anything to you. And I'll go through it. Don't you worry, And she would, I would go home every summer and be like, Mom, let's clean out a closet. Let's clean out the garage. Let's clean out something.
So I want to pause there too, because how many of you are watching this right now or listening thinking, my mom is keeping all the tchotchkes, the silver, the china. I mean, I have adult children. I've kept plates and things thinking they're going to want it. And you're a child right now saying, I don't want that. I don't want that. But you don't want to tell your parents. And so they keep it. And I love how this evolution of your company is helping those conversations and allowing children to actually talk to the parent or parent and mom, dad, if this is important to you and it's not necessarily important to us, how do we capture the keepsake moment of it?
Right.
How do we capture it, but then give it to another home that will love it and appreciate and cherish it, but it's still captured. So you help people now walk through some of that.
Well, and that was the thing, Mom had all these valuable things and hey, that's fine. And even if we don't want it, what is it worth? And what's here? We didn't even know anything that was in the house. So we would go through stuff and we'd be like, I think that was grandma's. I don't know. And we are taking Google's pictures and asking Google, what is this and how much is it worth? Because we didn't want to just throw everything away.
Sure.
We honestly, we're not going to just throw everything away.
Of course not.
But to know the value of it, where it should go, how much to charge for it for the estate garage sale, things like that. We learned the estate company wants the whole house. They wouldn't let us pick and choose things. They want everything in the house. And if it wasn't a certain amount of money and we're like, I don't know if this is worth $10,000, it's probably a few hundred, or, it's probably a few thousand, but I don't know if it's $10,000.
So you've learned more than just where do you put your parent in a senior care facility? Or what do you do when the one parent passes and now the other parent is dwindling quickly? This is bigger. Your parent Porter is bigger than those conversations. So what kept leading you down that path? I feel like you were guided and you kept seeing the signposts and you kept walking in a certain direction.
Yeah, it definitely has evolved from where it was. It took us a good 6 weeks to clean it out and get it to a point. I kept the house and I was like, I will turn this into a rental property. I'll spend time here in the summers. I love where I'm from. But then it was just too much. And I ended up selling the house in 2024. So in 2025, I had a lot of friends and family come to me and go, oh my gosh, my parents are getting older. What did you do? What did you do? And that's when the idea came to me. And I was like, you know what? I need to help all the adult children just prepare. I mean, you don't know what direction it's going to go, but you need to have a A, B, and C plan and probably a D, E, and F plan just in case. What does it look like? There were a lot of conversations I hadn't had, and I'm almost thankful that it went down the way it went down, because mom without dad would have been a different situation. Mom would have needed more care. She may have needed independent living or a caretaker or her family, or I didn't want to move back home and do that job because I don't like being back home. But I mean,
but these are real conversations.
There were a lot of different conversations and things that needed to be said. And originally, when I came up with the idea, I was like, okay, well, my background is real estate. I will stick to the real estate side of things. I will help teach families how to live safer in their homes longer, because my parents, they lived in a 2-story house with a basement. And my dad had said, sometimes my legs hurt too bad to walk up the stairs. So I slept in the chair in the living room. And I was like, well, we need to have a different conversation then if this is a problem, because your bedrooms are upstairs and your laundry's in the basement. So there's other conversations that might need to be going on. So I was like, I can use that wisdom with my real estate background and help families understand, when do mom and dad really need to move? Is it just modifications? And especially with the home values the way they are, everybody thinks I'm just going to downsize mom and dad, or we're going to do a quick move, and they're going to spend more going into a smaller home with, the values of the houses. How about if we just fix the bathroom, modify the kitchens, make everything easier to live in? So I got certified aging in place, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be the third party, because parents won't listen to their kids. So I'll be that third party that walks in the door and helps them assess the situation and help them get organized and find the right people and the right tools and, whatever the family might need. And I got I don't know where the kids live, so I don't know how to reach the adult children if they live here. And then I tried to go directly to the seniors going, don't you want to live longer in your home? Don't you want it to be safe? And they were all, I'm fine. I've lived here for 30 years.
I play pickleball 3 times a week.
I'm fine. Nothing's going to happen.
I'm super healthy. My checkup says I'm great.
Right. But as we age, it's hard. Our bodies just don't recover the way they used to. And I think that's unfortunately what people find out when mom and dad fall. Like, a lot of times, I forget what the stat is. I should have remembered that one. But, once they fall, they don't always die from the fall, but they die from complications. They die from the infection, from the break, from the, or the head injury, or, they end up passing from other things. And I think it takes 7 years off their lifespan after a fall.
So you can fall like I did recently at 59 and smacked my face. Nobody's home. My phone's on the counter, and it was a dumb move on my part, which anybody who knows me listening to this is laughing because they're thinking that's not unusual, Veronica. But I remember thinking of you in that moment because I'm like, oh my gosh.
Who's going to help me?
Who's going to help me? How long will I have to lay on the floor? Or, what if it knocked me out? My husband was out of town. How long will time go before somebody realizes, has anybody heard from mom?
Right. And people pass that way too. Because people aren't checking on them all the time, because they don't need somebody to check on them. They're healthy.
Right.
But installing smart devices, there's so many devices now that are so age friendly. Like, Alexa, help me, call my daughter. I mean, because
seriously, that's so true, though.
Nobody wants to wear the wearables.
No.
Sometimes people have a watch, which is nice. But there's just different products out there that, AI even, it will track movement in the living room. And if it senses that something's off, it can alert. There's a lot of up and coming technology for aging.
So in your SAFE program that you created, you have a lot of this information in there.
Correct.
So you started evolving your company as you realized more conversations you had, other things came up.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is I was like, you guys, I have a plan. And they're like, oh no, I already have a plan. I already have a financial advisor. I already have an estate plan. And I was like, no, not that kind of plan. Like all the other things. And I wasn't getting my message across, and everyone was like, I don't need your plan. I have a plan. And I was like, but you don't have my plan. And so, you've worked with me on this and teaching people it's more about the system, and I can guide you through my framework and through the system.
It's just education.
Yes.
Education now as an assurance plan prior to when you actually need it.
Right.
I mean, we invest in life insurance, we invest in health insurance, we invest in car insurance, we do all these other insurance things. But to actually have a workbook or a digital the safe plan that you created, your toolkit that says, here's how you can have a conversation with your parent, or the parent looking at it saying, here's how I'm going to have a conversation with my adult children,
Right.
so that we're all on the same page here.
Right.
And it's bigger than the will and trust and directives and what I want when I'm gone. It's bigger than that. And I think that's where the power of this conversation comes from. And the company that you've developed, it's unique, it's on point. I think it has some great intellectual property behind it. And not only that, Nicole, it's lived experience. And then all these conversations you've had with so many since losing your mom and all that you went through. And you understand how to work with financial advisors and wealth advisors and their clientele and what they could need. You provide that service. And then also with estate planners, you provide. So you have these power partners that have that audience that you're talking to who say, oh, wow, this is bigger than how do I help my parents move into senior living care or dementia care? Or that's usually when those conversations, who's going to take care of mom and dad because, oh my gosh, the memory's slipping.
And now who's paying for it,
And
you know?
Wow.
And I don't think people were expecting to live so long when they started their financial plans. You know, maybe the parents started their financial plans in their 30s and 40s and they retired in their 60s, like, you know, people are supposed to, I guess. But they're living 40 years longer versus 20 years longer. So now, did they financially prepare for that? Did the children understand that how much things cost? I don't think people understand it's, you know, $1,000 a day to have in-home care. And it's more, but there's some places that are $15,000 a month for families to live in. And some of that's independent living for the people that are healthy.
Wow.
And so it's really just very unique to the family specific needs. And that's why I created the system, because these are the conversations you need to have with your parents. There's not a one size fits all for everybody. So it's all about the conversations, but it's their house, it's their wishes, it's their things. Do they have a financial plan or estate plan? It's asking just all the questions. So you're not totally blindsided like I was.
And I just want to say it's not for your parents that are in the 80s and you're in your 60s. It could happen for my husband and I that I'm 59, he's 64. We should be thinking about this for our adult children. And yes, do I think I'm living to 122? Yes. And that's a whole nother story we'll get into later. But and we have longevity in my family. I mean, I have an aunt right now who's 106. So, I mean, amazing, right? And she still lives in her own home. How crazy is that? But it's true. And my parents and I still have conversations around our lives and our future and what we're doing and planning vacations and all these fun things. And I'm grateful to have those. But it wasn't until you and I started having some deeper conversations I started to really understand this product you've created and this company you've created, because it's so needed. And so for those that are listening and watching today, Nicole, what would you say are 1 to 3 things that they should be asking themselves right now, either as that parent that's listening who's in their 60s or 70s, or the adult child who's 50 and older thinking, oh, I have adult kids too. So I'm in a sandwich spot. I have my parents and I have my adult children, but I haven't thought of this plan other than our estate plan for our kids and putting things in trust. But beyond that, haven't done anything more. So what would be some tips you would give those that are wanting one, and then we'll tell them how to get in touch with you, but what should they be thinking? What should this audience be thinking about?
Well, the first thing, I would look at their current situation and look at their home environment and their well-being. They can live at home for as long as they can, you know, as long as you let them, but you need to pay attention if there's declines, if there's memory loss, or, you know, not everybody gets dementia. Like sometimes it's other factors within the home, molds, chemicals, other toxins that are affecting the brain, and that's not dementia, where, you know, you really need to pay attention to their home environment. Are they getting along with the neighbors? Are they secluded? You know, those all affect your overall well-being. So just paying attention to your parents' well-being, I would say, would be number one. well-being in the home. The second one, I would say, age-proof the house. You age-proof when you have children, age-proof so they're safe. There's, eliminate the steps, get rid of the rugs. Aging in place, it's called. I know not everybody's familiar with that term. Put in the smart devices, make it easy for them to live in their house. And then the third thing, just make sure that you have all your documents in order, things like that. Make sure the house is in a beneficiary deed. Make sure you have somebody on your bank account. Make sure, all your financial accounts are with beneficiaries, and make sure things are updated.
So that last one that you said could pertain to anybody that has adult children.
Yeah.
So not just that.
Relationships change.
Sure.
Maybe you want one child to have it and not both children, but just checking on all those things and making sure that everything's just ready to go. Should something happen, there's no decisions that need to be made by the kids. And
the safe family plan that you've put together not only covers these high-level conversations, it deep dives into many other things that you've created, and this proprietary product that you have that asks very different questions than I've seen out there. And I've had people say, I just went to Amazon and I bought the box, but that's great because you need that, but there's so much more that's involved in the process and the program. Right. And I know that you have your safe plan on special right now because we're celebrating 47 years on the planet.
I know. So today is my 47th birthday. And so I'm offering my digital download Safe Family Preparedness System for 147. And there's a coupon code. If not, if they're listening to this podcast after my birthday, definitely send me a message and just say, I saw you on Veronica's podcast, and I will totally give you that coupon.
I love that. So, and we'll let that be out there until the end of the year. How's that? So that, fine. 3 years down the road, people are listening, somebody's not calling going, can I still get that code?
I know.
Wouldn't that be great, though? 3 years down the road, they're still listening.
So I do offer a digital product. I do one-on-one consults, so we can go over your specific family situation. And then I do have a higher offer of concierge services where maybe your family hasn't done anything, right, and you don't even know where to start and you need help.
That's important.
I can definitely be that person for you.
So they'll go to yourparentporter.com.
Correct.
And you're the president and CEO of the company. You've created this incredible product and system for these families that are so important. You decided to step big into entrepreneurship. And what I love about, and because this is really a podcast for entrepreneurs listening, you also have set up your company so you can be very mobile. Absolutely. And I love that for you because so many people want to say, I'm in Italy, but my business is in the States, right? Like you. I
need both because I need the freedom, especially now that I don't have to take care of my parents. But I do have nieces back in Michigan, so I want to go spend time with my family in Michigan, and I want to go see the world. And
so many women want what you have in this freedom space. But more importantly, you also really leaned into a shift in what you created, and you just followed the signposts along the way. Yeah. Just like getting from here to Michigan. That drive, right? Yeah. You decided to put your vehicle on a particular path and create impact for others so they don't have to face and go through the pieces that you had to go through beyond the emotional. That is something that you can't avoid. And
we're just getting into the baby boomers. The baby boomers, the last one turns 65 in 2030. So, we have 20 years worth of potential emergency situations coming that families need to prepare for.
Rest assured, be prepared, have a plan, and make sure you connect with Nicole Porter with Your Parent Porter. We will see you next week on Be Visible with Veronica. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Be Visible with Veronica. If today's episode sparked something in you, share it, tag me, and pass it on. Your presence has power, and the world is better when you let it be seen. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and keep showing up as the unstoppable force you were born to be. I'll see you next time.